All right, welcome everyone. So glad to have you all here, see some new faces and some familiar faces. We're really excited for today's PDS session. So to kick us off, my name is Sarah McAllister. I am the Senior Associate Director here for the Office of Alumni Career and Professional Development. And we also have Nina here, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nina. I'm the assistant director in the same department as Sarah, and I will be all things tech today. So if you have any issues, you can just direct message me in the chat and I'll be able to help you out.
Perfect. So a few housekeeping things, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ann. So this session is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. We have over 70 already recorded sessions on the YouTube channel. So if you're not familiar with it, I would love to have you check it out, subscribe so you can get notifications with new recordings. And it's everything under the umbrella of career and professional development. So there's lots of great resources there. I'd also love for all of you to introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you are joining from. It's always fun to see where everybody is across the country and sometimes internationally as well. Okay, so there will be time for questions at the end. Typically, it seems to work pretty well if you want to, and also if you have questions during the session, if you want to just go ahead and put them in the chat so you don't forget them, and then we can have time at the end for Ann to answer those as well. All right, awesome. Thank you for introducing yourselves. Got some Texas, Louisiana, awesome. Okay, so with that, our presenter today is Ann Parnes. She is co-founder of After Hello. She's a Tulane alum, and I personally have kind of known about her for several years through some mutual friends, and I'm really excited to just learn more about what she has to say today. And I know that this topic of balancing career and personal life is relatable for all of us. So Ann, thank you for being here and would love to have you take it from here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Again, I'm a Tulane alumni myself, or Newcomb College, and my mom's on the faculty, and my son, who I see also on the call, is a student at Tulane, though currently in Barcelona, living his best life. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to share information about relationships and their impact on life. And I feel like it's a really appropriate topic for a professional development series because it is something that affects every aspect of our lives, not just our work, but it does spill over into our professional lives. So it's really appropriate. I think it's really important. It's something that we don't devote enough time and energy to discuss, and it has profound impact. So thank you for having me. And I'm going to do my best to keep up with my slides, but I'm not promising anything. It already seems to be a problem for me for whatever reason. So here we go. It's working. So once again, today, we know that connection is really important. We know that we are drawn to it as humans. It's what we really need. We feel best when we are connected. And that's why I have clients. That's why there are so many people on the dating apps. It's because we really do want to connect. We see the value of it. But somehow, sometimes, because of the way we're living today, we kind of go on autopilot and we're pulled in a million different directions, and we lose intentionality. And we really suffer in our personal lives, and that spills over into absolutely everything and leaves us with a lot of problems. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Once again, I'm having a little bit of slide trouble. Let's see. Oh, okay. So here's a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about these sort of negative effects of the loneliness epidemic that's plaguing the country. And since I am a matchmaker, even though all connection is important, we are going to focus a little bit about what it means to choose the right partner, what it is to prioritize a relationship and give it the effort that it deserves, and what that looks like and how you can achieve that. And then, of course, communication, which is the cornerstone of relationships, how we can use best practices to really achieve the relationships we want. So again, not promising to follow the order of my slides, but I will share them after in case it's helpful. Okay. Here we go. So today, even though, again, we understand the value of connection and relationships, we are living in a way that's not really conducive to our priority of having relationships in our lives. What's happening now is rather than going into an office every day and having that sort of interaction of someone stopping by for a little gossip or just to check on each other, most of us are at least hybrid or remotely working, where we're behind a screen, we're with packed meetings all the time. When we're not in front of our computers, we're always reachable. I know myself, I have Asana, Slack, Gmail, text, WhatsApp, all going off at the same time with my team trying to reach me. So we are on high stress alert. Our nervous systems are, kind of always on this, aggressive sort of alert energy. And we're being impacted in the way that we feel and in being isolated, which leads to loneliness. The Surgeon General declared this to be an epidemic last year because of its profound impact. Believe it or not, that prolonged loneliness can be as detrimental to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So just take that in, right? My numbers are not great, but it increases your chance of having heart disease by 29%, of stroke by 32%, of dementia in your older years at 50%. And about a third of us have reported feeling lonely at least once a week in this past year. So profound health impacts, in addition to just health, profound impacts on our mental health, right? We're more apt to be depressed, we're more apt to be anxious, which is kind of no surprise if we're not connecting, if we don't have someone there for support, someone to, just help us get through it all. So and not only in our mental and our physical health, but then of course, it spills over. If we're feeling disconnected and lonely, it's going to spill over into our careers as well. And you don't even have to be alone to feel lonely. I think many people are in relationships and still feeling lonely. And I think that, what happens is, again, we are pulled in a million directions and our phones are always going off. And so we're not prioritizing these relationships. They are starting to wane. Then we're diving into work even more, becoming more isolated. This is particularly true sort of at the top. We work with a lot of leaders who used to be contemporaries and, have this wonderful relationship with their coworkers, and then feel that once they rise to a certain level, it's sort of inappropriate. And so they're losing that type of connection, and it's really leading to them not having anyone to bounce ideas off of or personal support. Their decision-making is impacted, their motivation is impacted. A Harvard Business Review said that workers who are lonely are much less productive, engaged, and more likely to quit. So definitely your relationships are going to bleed over into your career, whether you like it or not. So there's definitely, I'm again making a case for love, but really its impacts are really widespread. Okay. So again, lots of ways that we can connect, including just checking in with each other, talking about personal things before we dive into business, and many ways that we can. And in fact, if we think about it, nowadays, the way that we live, also, we don't go to the grocery store as much. We have everything delivered. We have everything on demand. So we're not even getting out. We're not even having those conversations with clerks and with other people in the stores. We're just really becoming more and more isolated. So, and when we are out, what are we doing? We're staring at our phones once again. All of these things are not conducive to connection. And so, of course, that just exacerbates the problem. So, but we are going to talk about today the impact of choosing a right partner and nurturing that relationship, and how that can really enhance your life and overall well-being, and including your career. This is something that, of course, we do every day in my line of work. We talk to people about, what does a good life look like to you? What does a relationship look like? What's your vision? What do you want your life to look like? Where do you see yourself in the future? What is career? What, how important is career to you? What are you willing to sacrifice for it? What are your goals? Sort of getting really clear on these things, because you can have very incompatible life visions, and that's going to make it really, really difficult to have a really smooth relationship. If one of you is willing to work hard and wants to travel and have a second home, and the other one really is just really happy with a very simple life and just wants to, have a no stress, simple life, being that incompatible makes it really difficult to have a smooth relationship. So I always feel like, even if you're not working with someone, it's important for you to take the time and really be honest with yourself about, what is your vision? What are your values? A lot of what we want in life is based on our core values, about what is important to us. And it's definitely worth taking the time and being really curious about yourself to figure out, what you want and what that looks like. So that's a super important piece. And of course, there's when you do choose that person, I'm sure you all have seen the difference in someone who is in the right relationship, or you yourself have been in one, the profound impacts it can have, right? I mean, you can go through lots of things at work, but knowing that you have that safe place to come back to, that stability, that source of joy, it makes all the difference in the world. It makes you resilient. It makes that person, hopefully the right partner, is going to be a team member, a partner for you, and want the best for you and help you get there. So just having that ally and someone on your team can make all the difference in the world, in your professional life, in your personal life, in all of it. It's, I don't believe that, this might be an unpopular opinion, but in my view, relationships that aren't familial are not, or there's no such thing as unconditional love, in my view, when it comes to relationships. So I really feel that if everybody is putting their best foot forward, and if you are enhancing each other's lives, that's the reason for the relationship. You only live once, and it's such a huge decision making, that decision of choosing a person to share your one and only life with. Obviously you want someone who you can count on and who's super reliable, and again, who wants the best for you. The thing that I think is really, really important in a partner is actually a growth mindset. To me, that kind of is the most, other than being just a kind, good person, I think that's single-handedly the most important quality that somebody can have and you yourself can have. Because if you just stay really rigid and you feel like, well, I'm just impatient and that's the way that I am, that's not really going to make for a great partner. But somebody who recognizes that, you know what, I'm really impatient and it's a challenge for me, but I know that this is something that can really affect someone's life negatively and might not make me the best partner or joy to someone, it's something that I want to work on, right? That is a really wonderful quality. And finding someone who also feels like, life is going to happen and there's going to be change, but we're going to roll with it. We're going to grow together. We're going to work and put in that work and reap the benefits, right? That's one of the most important qualities in a partner, in my opinion. And again, it's not just about finding the right partner, it's also about being the right partner, right? Many of the qualities that you yourself are looking for and value in someone, that person is also valuing in a partner. And so it's really important to sort of take a look. Might not always be pretty. We all have something that, we might feel could be worked on and make us a better partner, but that's really important for having a healthy relationship. It's not only finding the right person, it's being the right person, right? So taking a look, figuring out, some things where we know that we can want to change all we want to, and maybe we're not going to have that much luck there, but the ones that we can, the ones that we do have control over, right? Those are the ones that are really worth working on, because you can get better. That's what, growth is all about. And your relationships will definitely reap the benefits, right? There's a reason they say that where you water, that's where the grass grows. And so this is really an area that is super important to water. We have a million balls in the air all the time, right? But at some point, if you consistently keep dropping the balls for connection and relationships, it's going to spill over into everything. So besides health, I really feel that this is kind of an area of investment that pays off in every aspect. I can sit here and give you the, advice on how to make time for this relationship. If you do find the right person, if you are lucky enough to have, these wonderful ingredients to work with, that's just the beginning, right? We all have to put in the work to keep that going, because if we don't, it will die. The grass will die, get brown and die. So, but for everyone, that's going to look really different. And it's kind of like, losing weight. There's no real secret there, right? Eat less, move more. And it's the same thing with our relationships. It's recognizing their importance and making it a priority. And what that means to you is going to be different. It might mean saying no to being on a board, or, we all like to please at work. And so it might mean saying no to being on the social committee or something like that, that maybe isn't in line with the priorities of your relationship. It's anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So just being really mindful, intentional about the fact that, like, this relationship is super important to me and you value it and you cherish it. And so you are willing to make sacrifices for it. And that is going to take some sacrifice. Of course, we can't have it all, but we can have what's most important. So hopefully the fact that you're here today means that strengthening your relationships is important to you. And in my opinion, it really is the best investment you'll ever make. So the other part of that, of course, is the energy that you bring when you come home, right? So again, we've kind of, well, we can do a little bit about this, but I'm not going to tell you what works for you, but the big thing is take some time, figure out what works, and somehow reorganize your priorities to match your goals of having a healthy relationship. And some of that is about self-care. And again, that's just something that how to refill your buckets. And so just to make sure that you put on your oxygen mask first is going to make you better with your relationships. It's going to make you better at work. So definitely make some room for yourself in all of this. I think that is always going to be your most important relationship. And from there, when you have a full bucket, you'll be able to devote more time into being really deliberate and about, living the life that gives you what you want, which hopefully is satisfaction and connection in all aspects. So the other thing about the way that we're living now is that, oftentimes, again, we used to commute to work and we would have that time on our way home to sort of decompress. We might listen to some music, we might listen to the radio. Nowadays, you're sitting in front of a computer and then your last meeting is done and all of a sudden it's time to engage with our loved ones we're supposed to flip a switch and all of a sudden go from being just really on and getting things done to then bringing a different energy, which is the one that you really need for a relationship, which is a softer feminine energy. I didn't make up these names. It's just referred to as a masculine and a feminine energy, right? We need both, men and women. We all need both to get things done. We need to bring our masculine energy forward and, be able to make decisions and feel confident and kind of bring like that tougher side out, just the things, how to get things done. So on the other side of that is feminine energy. And that's what we want to bring into our relationships. It's softness, it's openness. It's not trying to fix, it's just listening, it's connecting, it's compassion, it's passion. It's all of those things. It's all of what you want kind of in your safe place, which are your relationships. And unfortunately, we can't just flip that switch and go from work to, to our relationships that quickly. Some of us need kind of a little bit of time. So being aware of that. I had a client, unfortunately, he's a litigator. I have a lot of lawyer clients, and he and his girlfriend had a brief conversation the night before. He had a really busy day and was just in and out of court and arguing and, kept thinking about what had happened and going back to his work and just sort of that like hostile, charged environment. And the minute his court case or whatever was done, he had enough, he was stewing, and he had to talk to her right then. So of course he called her, and there was no intention on his part to have a conversation, to understand her perspective, to communicate about what his experience was, to try to understand what might have happened. He went straight into the mode that he had been in all day, and that was to win. He started to cross-examine her, basically. This is what he thought, and he was going to prove to her that he was right, and here was his evidence. And guess what? He won that argument and he lost the relationship. And it was really sad to me because I really felt like there were a lot of compatibilities there and everything was going so well. And she just really felt attacked. And then anyway, it didn't work out. And if only, what we talked about subsequently was if he had just taken that time to sort of shed all of that, right? And to move into the different energy and to realize that that wasn't winning. It's not a you versus me, it's us, right? That's the way that you win in relationships. And so a lot of times before my clients go on dates, I always say, what is like something that you can do to put you in the right headspace, whether it's listening to music, again, a podcast, burning a candle, whatever that looks like, taking a walk, deep breathing, meditation. For everyone, that's going to be different, but it's really important to just be in the right energy, the right headspace for a relationship. And I think we just talked about that. Again, it's very different. It's not about, trying to solve anyone's problems for the doctors, right, who are doing that all day. It's just about more listening and connecting and being vulnerable and just as two people rather than as two professionals, right? Just because somebody is a wonderful professional, highly esteemed, does not make them a great partner. Those are very different skills. Okay, so what can we do, right? We can't spend half our day at work and half our day investing in our personal relationships. That probably isn't realistic. We need to sleep and do other things for ourselves. So we have to get sort of the most bang for our buck. And luckily, there are plenty of things that can be done that are sort of efficient and have a really big impact. There's many of you might have heard of the Gottman Institute. It was started by John and Julie Gottman, and they did a lot of research. For 40 years, they followed couples. They had them in their lab, they observed them, and they followed them for 40 years. And what they found was that there were relationship masters and there were relationship disasters. And what really separated the two was how they responded to each other's bids for connection. And these can be really simple things. They can be verbal, they can be nonverbal. It can be as simple as, you're sitting there next to your partner and all of a sudden they're looking at their email and they sigh, right? And you can sit next to them and just completely ignore them. Or you could say, what's going on, right? Just to put yourself on that same page with them. You could be taking a walk and your partner says, wow, it's such a gorgeous day. And rather than, saying, oh, what's for dinner? You could be there with them in that moment and say, it really is. I don't remember the last time it was this cool in August or whatever it is, right? So those little things, and again, nonverbal can be just coming up and, giving someone a hug, a pat, a wink, things like that, that just create a moment of connection between you. And what the Gottmans found was that these moments, the couples who were the masters are the ones who had them the most. I think that the statistics, I of course had to write it down. I think it was like couples who turned towards each other for when these bids were made, that were the masters did it 86% of the time. So it was reciprocated when somebody wanted that little piece of connection without saying, hey, pay attention to me, right? Just a little subtle gesture or word. When that was reciprocated, that made the masters, right? When they did it throughout the day. And it can be little things. So 86% of the time, the masters, 86% of the time turned towards each other's bids. The disasters only turned towards each other 33% of the time. So as you can see, those little things can make a really big difference. It's not just about planning, a romantic vacation to Paris. It really is sort of the everyday moments and interactions that can really make a relationship or break it. The other thing is, learning each other's love languages. Gary Chapman came up with 5 love languages that most people are familiar with. I'll just run through them quickly. Acts of service, kind of doing things to make each other's lives a little easier, taking someone's car for an oil change, let's say. Words of affirmation, kind of what they sound like. You're so wonderful. I love you so much. You mean so much to me. Gifts, right? Doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but just something that's thoughtful. I went to the store and I saw they had your favorite flavor gum, so I picked it up for you. Physical touch, right? Affection and closeness, not just sexual, but just, physical intimacy. And, oh gosh, I forgot what I already said, words of affirmation, quality time, right? This doesn't necessarily mean quantity, like lots of time, but it means like having that time where you put your phone away. You're not just watching TV, but you're really kind of experiencing something together. So those are the 5 love languages. They're all wonderful. Typically, we usually have, we have 1 or 2 that sort of we feel most loved when someone speaks that language to us. And so it's really important to figure out how to speak that language and what that language is when you're in a relationship. For instance, I had a client who, kind of had a new job and had to cancel plans with his girlfriend quite often. He hated it. He really did. And he knew that it wasn't going to be forever, but he felt like this is what he had to do to get ahead. And so when he did have to cancel on her, he would send her flowers because he just wanted her, to be surrounded by beauty. He wanted her to know he was thinking of her. And he felt like that's the least I can do is send her flowers. I know she loves them. On her end, she did not receive it that way. She received it as, you know what, he's making money. He can't be here. So he's just going to throw money at it, right? And just have this gesture and it doesn't make up for it. And, just really harbor kind of that anger and resentment. It wasn't until the 2 of them sat down and really communicated about what his intention was behind the flowers and that she could see his perspective that they were able to kind of get on the same page. And so communication is really important. It's, doesn't make sense for him to keep sending those flowers. It really, what she wanted was the quality time, right? So they found a way to take advantage of the time that they had and really connect and kind of recharge. And, he no longer had to send flowers and she no longer had to be resentful. They just had to find these pockets of time where they could really connect, and it was all good. So super important so that you're not sort of misfiring and thinking you're, showing them you love them and they're ungrateful. And then, of course, to do with it, like curiosity and communication, those are such big parts of it. When you are getting to a place where you feel like you might not notice that you are not putting in what you need to. You want to create an environment where your partner can come to you and say, hey, listen, this is how I'm feeling. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can fix this, right? So, what's going on with you? How are you feeling? Just being really curious, and also like not assuming that you know everything about your partner. That makes the relationship pretty stale. So if you kind of keep that culture of curiosity, learning about each other, growing together, your satisfaction is going to be way up. Your romantic life is going to be much more exciting. The passion will continue, right? Like the curiosity feeds passion, according to my favorite therapist, Esther Perel. So kind of the opposite, some of the things that people can do that really are going to screw up their relationship. Again, we can credit the Gottman Institute for this. There are these 4 horsemen of breakdown for couples. And these are the behaviors that when the Gottmans saw them, they could predict with 90% accuracy that those relationships are going to fall apart. So as you can see, the first one is criticism, pretty self-explanatory, right? But instead of, trying to solve a problem, it's about, you're lazy. It's, instead of saying, it really bothers me when you don't take out the trash. I feel like when I get home, I'm overwhelmed. It's saying, I can't believe you didn't take out the trash. You're so lazy. And so then it becomes really personal. And that's just not, you can see if somebody's talking to you that way, that's not going to lead to connection, right? The next one, and the worst one of them all, is contempt. And that's sort of this like visceral, you can see that this person dislikes you. They're rolling their eyes, they're breathing, they're, all of the things that sort of teenagers do, right? And if you feel your partner doesn't like you, again, that is going to really erode your closeness over time, and it's got to stop. So defensiveness, again, when you talk about a problem with your partner, instead of kind of being curious, talking, maybe taking responsibility, they sort of play the victim and turn it on you, right? Again, it's not going to foster open communication if when you want to talk about a problem that you're having, it's turned on you rather than met with an attempt to make it better. And then stonewalling, and that's kind of happens after years of these behaviors where basically somebody wants to talk and the other person is just not interested in having the conversation. They shut it down, whether by saying, I don't want to talk about it, leaving the room, or kind of tuning out with some sort of behavior where, being on their phone where they're really not listening. So those are the things you don't want to do. And if you find yourself going there, it's just really important to be aware of it so that you can stop it. Anyway, the opposite of that, of course, we've talked about, it's kind of getting into the right energy, finding the right times. There are going to be difficult conversations. It's important to have them. And again, being really curious about the other's perspective. Give your partner the benefit of the doubt, right? You're with someone for a reason. So if they do something, if they screw up, it's really important to check yourself and make sure you're not automatically making them the bad guy, right? It's much more constructive to figure out, why did they do this? What was behind this? How can we fix this, right? And working that way as a team rather than you versus me, you're going to feel connected. You're going to have relationship happiness, and you're going to thrive in every part of your life. And again, I think we've talked about a little of these already, so I don't need to go through them again. But again, you might not always reach a resolution, and that's perfectly okay. I think the important part is people sometimes just want to be heard and understood and feel like it matters, their feelings matter, that you're going to consider them. So really, if you make that the goal rather than, we have to get on the exact same page during this discussion, I think you'll find that that's really a better way to approach it. And I mean, I just, again, want to reiterate, make the case that, if you invest in your relationships, you really are going to find that your entire life will improve. It's absolutely worth the effort. It will make you healthier. It will make you happier. It will make you thrive in your careers. I think that hopefully, not many of you been in toxic relationships, but for those who have, you know what it looks like on the other side. If you don't do the work, if you don't become a good partner, if you don't put some intention into finding the right partner and nurturing that relationship, and it becomes, really unhealthy and really toxic, it really does spill over. You can't do a great job at work. You're going to get burnt out, and that's just not how we want to live our lives, right? I think you're here because you want more balance. So even though it's tough, I think that, taking the time to figure out how you are going to prioritize investing in those relationships and what that looks like for you, and setting small goals, maybe one at a time, for a week at a time, and just seeing how that suits you and how that pays off, I think that that will get you in a much better direction, and your whole life will be much, much, much happier. If you need support, of course, I have to make a plug, right? So at After Hello, we do individualized matchmaking. So we kind of do a little bit of what we talked about today, really sitting down, figuring out what your vision is, what's most important. And then it's up to us, of course, to go and search and interview and vet, and then market you if we think it's a good match, and arrange your introduction, make it super easy so that all you have to do is show up and have a good time with someone who hopefully has been selected, that is a complimentary match to you. And then for people who kind of want to do it on their own, or just want to be in a different place in their romantic lives, we do offer coaching, and that really is individualized based on, where you are, where you want to be, and how we can get you there. You're doing more of the work in that case. For those who we feel are best served on the apps, and there are plenty who are, we serve as sort of ghostwriters for that, and just implement best practices to use those as a tool for in real life connection. And of course, we have a registry that's confidential and private. It doesn't go out on the internet, and we would love to have, people like you who are really invested in relationships, or if singles who are really relationship minded and value love and relationships, we would love to know about them. So we'd love for you to send them our way. I will put the link in the chat. It's just kind of the first place that we look when we are looking for matches. So please send wonderful singles our way. We would appreciate that. And thank you so much. Here's my contact information. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm always happy to talk and answer any questions, however I can help. And I will turn it over to you all for questions. I haven't looked in the chat, so I'll give it a look now and just see if I can answer any questions for you.
As people are thinking about questions, and first, thank you so much for all of this. I think it's been really, really helpful and informative. One question that I have is, I know you talked a bit about sometimes there could be a mismatch in terms of how people approach their professional relationships and identities and how that spills over. I guess, what have you seen over your time, like the biggest challenge that people have with their professional identities as it relates to their relationships?
I would say that it is moving from energy to energy. I work with a lot of successful women, and so they are really on all the time. And they say, I really want someone like a masculine guy who's just going to make all these decisions and do everything so that when I come home, I can relax, and let him lead. And unfortunately, men are kind of feeling the same way, and they're doing the same thing at work, right? So we all kind of want to come home and have, or come out of our work lives and have this softness. And so some people aren't so great at making the plans. Everybody wants someone else to take charge, not everybody, but in general. And I find that a lot of these women, even though they say that's what they want, they kind of can't let go of it. And so they stay in their masculine energy, and they attract the exact opposite of what they want, right? So if they're staying in this masculine energy, they're attracting sort of somebody who's a little bit softer and not who they want. And because it's always going to be complementary. And so that's kind of what we work on with them, is kind of, if you're looking for someone who is a little bit more in their masculine energy, you have to make space for that. And you have to be softer than is what's comfortable for you normally, and really transition out of that phase.
That makes sense. Thank you. And I always like to ask, I know that a lot of times people will have questions after the minute we say goodbye and thank you. So what's the best way for someone to connect with you outside of the session?
They're welcome to send me an email. It's Ann, A-N-N, at afterhello.com.
Okay, perfect. We can put that in the follow-up as well.
Wonderful. Let's see if we have any questions. Well, great. Again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. I don't have that link, and I'm not going to go looking for it, but if you go to afterhello.com, it's really easy. Just have your friends fill out that registry, and that would be amazing.
Okay. Yeah, we can touch base. If there's anything else that you want to put in the kind of follow-up email from Nina, we can add that as well. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you again for your time. And I know that this was really helpful. One thing that Nina and I were messaging is that everybody stayed. That's not always the case. So it was clearly interesting and people were invested in what you were saying. So I just wanted to give you that feedback as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, thank you again. Keep an eye out for our future PDS sessions and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you so much.
Bye, all.
Bye.